Good. Is it light enough?
Professor, how are you?
I can see you now.
I can hear you too. How are
Can
you?
you see me? I'm fine. Can you see me though?
No, it's okay. Not really, but I'll be happy to carry on. I'm sure you can see yourself where you are. It
I
will be
can see
recorded.
myself. Yeah.
Perfect. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening once again to our esteemed viewers and listeners. And once again, welcome to our Lion Hearts of Africa Men's Conference. And we've just had a very enlightening discussion with Dr. Solomon Guramatunu, and now I would like to welcome our next speaker, Professor Chaoza Bandawe from Malawi, who is the first psychologist from Malawi to have who studied in South Africa and went back to Malawi, where he has been in practice since. Dr. Bandawe, welcome to our Lion Hearts of Africa platform, and we look forward to having you discuss redefining the self-care for men this evening.
Thank you very much indeed for that warm welcome, and welcome to everybody. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear.
Absolutely loud, Doc. Prof.
Thank
You're
you.
very loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to talk about self-care, redefining self-care, because I think it's not fully understood or appreciated among men. I'm getting a bit of an echo.
Please feel free to carry on, Professor.
Thank you. All right. So, yeah, I think that's better. So I think the starting point of a conversation like that is really to sort of ask ourselves the question, what does self-care mean? How do we understand self-care? What does self-care actually look like? And I think that's a very important question, because there are many misconceptions about self-care. And in fact, most of us men don't know how to take care of ourselves. And when we speak of self-care, what we are really doing is we are speaking to a large extent about maintaining our well-being, making sure that in everything that we do, we are absolutely and totally optimal, that we are operating at the best of ourselves. And that is something that is very, very important that we tend to overlook. So what I want to talk about is really how can we do that, because often we do things without reflecting on the implications and the consequences of our actions. For example, we may, when we are younger, certainly play rough, tough sport. We work long hours, minimal sleep. When someone upsets us, we tend to keep it in without expressing it, right? So we are constantly giving, and constantly sacrificing ourselves without being fully aware of the consequences of that. We are often not aware of how those things, those actions, the choices we make may actually harm us and could lead to a wide range of challenges and problems later on. So sometimes our idea of fun or taking care of ourselves may have dire consequences in the short term, in the medium term, but also in the long term. So let's unpack this, because there are certainly physical aspects of self-care. There are psychological aspects of self-care. So we need to have an overall understanding of the various aspects of our being or of our well-being, right? So for many men, the issue of self-care is something that we actually don't give much attention to. We tend to be very, very, busy working, making money in order to support our families, but we actually don't take time to do the things that will actually help us in terms of our own self-care. So it's very important that while this is overlooked often, it's actually very important for us to maintain our resilience, for us to continue to be successful, because it's like, to give an example we will all be able to relate to, our cars. Often, after a period of time, our car will go in for a service. All right. Now, we are not like cars. We don't require service once every 3 months or whenever. We require it more regularly, almost on a daily basis, because that is how our body functions. So, what does self-care actually look like? So in terms of our physical well-being, we are really talking about things like ensuring that you have regular exercise. Exercise is very, very important. There's cardiovascular exercise, but there's also muscle toning exercise to strengthen our muscles. So it is very important that every day we do some kind of exercise. It's not only good for our physical well-being, but various aspects of ourselves are interlinked. So for example, you'll find that at times we will focus, just on our physical well-being without giving attention to things like our emotions and our feelings. So regular exercise also affects our mood. In fact, scientific studies are clear that there is a link and a relationship between depression and anxiety and exercise. And what studies show is that the more you exercise, the less likely you are to be depressed or anxious. So regular exercise is a very important aspect. So please make sure that you build that into your daily routine. It doesn't have to be strenuous. You don't are able to do some regular of the body. Let me just make sure it's
Dr. Bandawe, Professor Bandawe, can you hear me? Prof, can you hear me? We seem to have a connectivity problem with Professor Bandawe, and we shall be a little patient and give him an opportunity to reconnect with us. while we wait for Professor Bandawe to join us, we've had Sebastian Zuze earlier today speaking to us on retirement and succession in the African context. It was very enlightening to hear how his personal journey led him to start a business that is now focused on retirement and succession, and he unpacked various a lot that we can all benefit from. And to catch up on some of these things that he has highlighted, you're welcome to go to our Lion Hearts of Africa platform, and you can see some of the speakers who have spoken. Sebastian Zuze on retirement, and yesterday we had Ndemfuayo from Namibia who also spoke. We had Dr. Solomon Guramatunu, who was speaking earlier this evening on how we should change our mindsets in order to achieve more and better, not only for ourselves, but for our communities and our countries. While we wait for Professor Bandawe to reconnect with us, please be patient and let us give him an opportunity to join. You are also welcome to follow our Facebook page, and let me see if I can try and connect Professor Bandawe to join us once again. Excuse me, I think a lot is going on while we try and reconnect him back. Professor Bandawe.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
No, very clean apologies, but you're welcome to start from where you had left off, and we welcome you back to the platform.
Thank you. Sorry, we have internet challenge. So I was talking about our physical well-being, and I was saying that regular exercise is essential in terms of our self-care. The other thing, of course, is what we eat. That we have a diet that is balanced and drink plenty of water. But also we tend as men to not prioritize sleep. Sleep is very, very important. We are ideally are supposed to sleep between 7 and 9 hours a night. But what tends to happen is that we, minimize sleep, and then what develops is what is known as a sleep debt that builds up over time. And therefore we are not as productive, we are not, our brains are not as, our minds are not as refreshed and energized. So we are not as optimal as we can be. So it's very important for us to ensure that we give priority to sleep. And usually when you look at sleep hygiene, you are looking at things like going to sleep as far as possible at roughly the same time every day, because we all have what is called a circadian rhythm. That is our body clock. So when your body gets tired, maybe around 9, 10, 11, 12, depending on who you are, but make sure that you try and maintain going to bed at the same time every day and waking up at the same time. So that's very important. So the area of sleep is actually something that's not fully appreciated, because when we don't sleep, what we tend to find is that we are often tired, and in terms of focus, concentration, memory, those things really are affected and compromised. So in what is called sleep hygiene, there are certain tools that are suggested. For example, things like being able to, of course, go to sleep at the same time, but make sure you switch off your devices before going to bed, maybe about half an hour before going to bed, a sort of wind down. Make sure you minimize on alcohol, it's before going to bed. Don't exercise rigorously just before going to bed, and don't eat a heavy meal just before going to bed, all right? Because all those things impact the quality of our sleep. So that's quite important. The other thing that we need to be mindful of in terms of our physical well-being, of course, is preventive health checks, okay? So make sure that you go as often, at least once a year, for a checkup. Make sure your blood pressure is checked. Blood pressure is a silent killer. Diabetes, so that your blood sugar levels are checked, but also your prostate, right? So that you get a PSA, because the amount of people suffering from prostate cancer is very high. And in fact, my doctor recommended that one should be checked twice a year rather than once a year to do a PSA. All right. So all those things are very important. And so preventive health checks is very important as part of your self-care. All right. We live in this tent, in this body, so we've got to take good care of it by exercising, eating well, hydrating enough, making sure we are sleeping well, and then we are also engaged in preventive health checks like blood pressure and prostate. Okay, the other aspect of self-care that as men we neglect but is very important is the emotional and mental well-being. Most of us men don't know how to deal with the emotions, don't know how to deal with the feelings that we have. In fact, we tend to have relationships with other people, but we don't have relationships with our own emotions. And it's important to have a relationship with your feelings, because basically the feelings require two things. They require, number one, expression, that we express, but also that they are acknowledged, or what we call validated. And very often we don't do that. So recognizing and naming emotions instead of suppressing them is a fundamental aspect of self-care. And so that means, let's say, for example, I'm feeling angry about something, I'm feeling even happy, I'm feeling frustrated. I name, observe what you are feeling and name it. Name it within you. Name it to say, all right, right now I'm feeling angry. Right now I'm feeling upset. And even if, let's say, you see a colleague of yours with a brand new car, the latest Toyota, or a brand new phone, the iPhone 17, and you feel jealous, name it within yourself. Acknowledge that right now I am jealous. I feel envy, or I feel inadequate, or I feel insecure. It's okay, and in fact, it's important to do that. That is an important aspect of self-care we call maintenance, that continuously, as you are going along in your day-to-day interactions, you are engaging in activities that ensure your well-being. So recognize and name the emotions. The second thing is that when you name the emotion, when you acknowledge the emotion, you need to find a healthy avenue for expressing it. So you need, for example, to be able to say, all right, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, for example, with my boss, but I need to express it. Now, sometimes it's not wise or practical to express your emotions to the person who may have upset you. But there are other ways you can find avenues for expressing. For example, you may sit down and write a letter to your boss, but you don't have to send that letter or that email to the boss. The whole purpose is to give you the opportunity to express what you are feeling, to vent it out, to discharge it. And then when you do that, you find that you feel lighter, you feel relieved. So that's something that I would really, really recommend. Right. I hope we're still together. You can hear me.
We are together.
Great. Wonderful. So that's very, very important for you to be able to do. Now, so the other things you can do: go for a run, go for a walk. Count down if you are feeling angry. Count down from 20 to 1. There are other things you can actually do without reacting, and that's what often happens with a lot of us men. We react emotionally rather than respond.
Wow.
Now, the other thing is that you will find that it's important to manage your stress. Now, what is stress? What do we mean by stress? We are really talking of, we all have that sense of, okay, I have a challenge, but you believe you have what it takes within you to overcome that challenge. All right, that, for example, you may have a deadline to write a report at work, something like that. And so you feel that, okay, yeah, this is challenging, but I have what it takes to overcome it. Stress is when you feel that the inner resources for you to overcome the challenge are depleted, or that it is so overwhelming that you just feel you do not have what it takes to overcome. So that's the essence of what stress is. And so there are a wide range of stress management tools that you can do even on a daily basis to just help you navigate through that. The first, I would say, is to acknowledge, is to recognize that actually we can't control the source of stress, but what we can control is how we deal with the stress, right? We will always have stressors. Suddenly things will happen. Someone might just quit working for you. There are all kinds of things. So what is very important is for you to say, okay, I can't control, but let me deal with how I respond to the stress. And so we recognize that all of us respond differently to stress. So for some people, they'll have physical symptoms. They'll have headaches, muscle tension. They may not be able to sleep. They may struggle with eating. Others may have more behavioral symptoms. So they won't have motivation to work. They'll find that they're drinking more or taking drugs, or that they are disengaging, from their social or spiritual practices. Whereas others, it may be more emotional symptoms. They may be more fearful. They may be more irritable. They may get angry easily, So the thing is, what are your stress warning signs? And when you know what they are, when you begin to experience them, then you can take a step back And it's very, very important to do that. Because if you don't, what tends to happen, and many men walk around with this, you can burn out. And many, many men actually are burnt out, where you feel totally depleted within you, you feel exhausted, you are cynical, or feel withdrawn. So we need, in terms of our self-care, to know our own stress warning signs. And then we need to identify, well, where is this stress coming from? Is it work-related? Is it to do with a relationship? Is it about health concerns, right? So just identify, where is this stress coming from? And is there something practical I can do? The other thing is that there are other things we can do just to cope with this stress. For example, many people love gardening or find gardening helpful. Others just connecting with nature, walking in nature. Others find writing in a journal can be very helpful. Others find going for a run, doing vigorous exercise, going to the gym. So there are all kinds of things that we can actually do to be able to navigate through the stress. So it's very important that we are self-caring or taking care of our emotional and our mental well-being. The other thing, of course, is very much the whole area in terms of self-care of our thoughts, our thinking. And we often don't take care of ourselves with our thoughts. Do you know that a human being has 65,000 different thoughts a day? 65,000, just imagine. And most of those thoughts are actually very negative, very hostile towards oneself. They are thoughts of, oh my goodness, I'm just not, I'm not adequate at this. We keep remembering mistakes that we have made instead of learning from them. We are not compassionate to ourselves. So the thoughts we have are often very self-defeating. And what we need to recognize is that our thoughts actually affect how we feel. And that's very important. Because if you are constantly thinking hostile, negative thoughts towards someone, you're going to end up not liking them. If we are constantly thinking about, oh, how awful the economy is, oh, how we're struggling with this, how things are just not working, you will end up depressed or anxious. So our thoughts affect our feelings. So it's very important for us to self-care or take very good care of the thoughts. And one of the mistakes we make is we assume that we have no control over the thoughts we have. And that once you have the thought, well, you just have to have that thought and react and respond to it. No, you actually have a measure of control because you can choose to just observe a thought and not engage with it. Sometimes we have thoughts and then it is the engaging, especially with negative, hostile thoughts. It is the engaging with the thoughts that is often the problem. That is often the challenge. So it's really important that we learn to even question our thoughts. To say to yourself, let's say a business deal didn't work out and you feel, oh gosh, I won't achieve anything, or nobody likes me, or life's unfair. To learn to question the thoughts. And I always like to tell people this, which is just because you are thinking something does not mean that that which you are thinking is true. Let me say that again. Just because you are thinking something does not mean that that which you are thinking is true. So question your thoughts. Is this thought true? Is this thought that I'm having helpful? Is this thought, can I, handle this thought, or how else can one look at this thought, right? And one of the important things about our thoughts is that emerging from our self-talk, because we talk to ourselves all the time in our heads, obviously, emerging from that, you'll find that very often we're asking ourselves questions. When you wake up in the morning, you'll say, okay, should I wear this or should I wear that? As you're driving, should I turn left? We're constantly asking questions. But unfortunately, some of the questions we ask ourselves are actually self-defeating. They are questions that are not helpful to us. All right? So that's very important for us to bear in mind. So begin to ask yourself a different set of questions. For example, ask yourself, what are my strengths? What can I learn from this setback? Yes, it's a setback. Yes, it is hurtful, but what can I learn from it in order to allow myself to move forward? And a very important question is, do I have control over this? Because if you don't have control over something, why waste time? Look at the weather, for example. Do you have control? Not really. So you can be upset, oh my gosh, it's going to rain tomorrow, or it's too hot, and you just sit and you worry the whole day about it being too hot. Well, the weather doesn't care. It's going to be what it is. So similarly, we have no control over certain things that we shouldn't invest a lot of our mental and emotional energy in. For instance, we have no control over what other people say. We have no control over what other people do. So if somebody insults you, well, it's more of a reflection of them than of you. And what tends to happen is that we are thinking about, oh, what this person did, and we're up at night, going over again what this person did. But that person who insulted us is fast asleep comfortably in their own bed. So I think it's very important for us to really learn to give attention to our thoughts, all right? That's an important aspect of self-care. Okay, so that's about self-care, emotional and mental well-being. And I've been blabbing on for rather long. There are several others, but I was just wondering, maybe at this point someone might have a question or a comment to make, and we can just, have a little discussion around what we've talked about so far. If not, then I could go on to the other areas, but I just thought maybe at this time it would be helpful to just give some.
Just trying to see if we have any comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, none at this stage. Prof,
Okay.
Maybe you should be able to continue, and then Bandawe.
Sure. Thank you. So let me continue. So the emotional and mental well-being, the physical well-being are very important aspects of our self-care. We need to give them attention. But there's also the need for social connection and relationships, building strong male-to-male friendships, all right? And often we tend to neglect that. But that sense of belonging to a brotherhood, belonging, having friends, a set of friends who are dependable. Some people have had friendships. I mean, I've had friendships for over 30 years, friends who I chat with and interact with. That's very, very important, because sometimes just having a safe space where you can vent and express what you're feeling where there's somebody who has a knowledge of you, an understanding of you, is a very important component of self-care. And we need to invest in those friendships. It's good to go hiking together, go on a trip together, fun things, go watch a football game together, things like that. Play a game of chess together and so forth. Those things are very, very important, right? So having male friends is very, very key in terms of your self-care, and it is necessary for your mental well-being. The other, of course, is family and community ties, investing in them, spending time with your children. There's been a shift, I would say, in terms of parent-child interactions now, that nowadays, I think we value more quality time with our children, investing, whereas for many of us in our age, and many would say that no, the fathers didn't really have time. Fathers were very busy, making money to pay for the fees and put bread on the table and so on and so forth. And so many men have actually grown up without really a meaningful connection and relationship with their fathers, and they're grappling to know how to now deal with their children, because the children of today have a different language and different expectations of the quality of relationship that they would have with their father. They expect more quality rather than the quantity. And in fact, I did a talk to young people about a year ago, and these were teenagers, and I basically asked them that, what is one of these things you wish your parents, and particularly your father, knew about you? And they were unanimous in saying that, one of the things is we wish that our parents knew how much we miss them, that dad knew how much we miss just hanging out with him and just hearing about his own experiences and learning from him and being able to ask him questions, about our romantic life, about our future thoughts about work and so on and so forth. So that connection is very important. So social connection and relationships are part of self-care. They are integral to self-care. The other thing, of course, is communication. In Malawi, where I am, about 80% of those who commit suicide, 80% of those who do are men. Yeah, 80%. So last year we had about 600 recorded suicides, according to the police. And of those 600, about 520 something were men within a year. Okay, so within the whole of 2024. So when I give these statistics and we have a discussion, whether it's with the police, whether it is with university students, whether it's with people in the corporates, when I give these workshops, they will all say that the challenge with men is we men do not talk. We tend to keep things to ourselves. And by keeping things to ourselves, basically, the emotions build up and boom. Whereas women have more friends, they chat, they gossip, they talk, they vent things out. Whereas women, we tend to keep to ourselves and tend to keep things in. So it's very important for us to recognize that expressing, talking, even to the friends we've just talked about, or talking to someone, even going to a professional, nothing to be ashamed about, is very, very important, rather than keeping things in. And I'm really glad to see that more men are actually coming for therapy and volunteering that, hey, I need help, I need to sort things out. having all kinds of emotions and feelings. So that's very important in terms of your self-care. All right? And then the other thing linked to that really is support networks. Very important. So like what we are doing here is really great, and I really, commend Lion Hearts of Africa for doing this, because it's really important for us to build this sort of brotherhood circle, this network, a supportive network of mentors and so on. It's really important. And although we may be starting small, it's something let's continue to do and to build up. It is so much needed because most men really don't have a sense of self-care, and that this is an important aspect of self-care. There was a switch. Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on. Sorry, my apologies. Something was trying to happen on this side. Please carry on.
No. Okay, great. The other thing then is what we call the work-life balance. And that's a big challenge for many men. How do we balance our work? How do we balance? All right? So the work-life balance is often a big challenge. So we tend to spend so much time at work or with work-related stuff, and because the demands are high, the bosses, we have some hard taskmasters who are driving us all the time. So what's important is to set boundaries, very important boundaries for work and even with technology. And I always say one of these things you must do, include in your diary, is time for yourself. Time for you to do something that you really enjoy. If it's watching a movie, meeting up with a friend, whatever it is really essential that you set boundaries and you set time. And you know that, okay, this is work time, I will work fully, but where there might be a demand that, no, actually, or could you do this? No, you negotiate, and where possible, because I know sometimes, it's not possible. Some bosses are very difficult. But where possible, it's important to even take a break, to even have time off. Holidays are for rest, yeah? I know that, when we feel that we have to always be on the go, doing this, then we are doing that. And then we feel if we don't, rest. I remember hearing someone talk about a holiday trip they made to another country, and when they got there, they say, okay, right, let's go here, let's go there, then we must visit this, do this, constantly doing. And the wife just said, no, let's just sit and let's just chill. And they did that for 2 days, and actually he looked back at it and said, actually that was one of the best holidays I've ever had, because I was just able to really rest and discharge. So please, holidays, rest, and going away somewhere, taking the family, or having a retreat of your own is very important. So please schedule rest and recreation, because it's important even to have what we call micro breaks, weekends. Take a break. Yeah, take a break. I used to see people on Saturday morning, and then I just realized, you know what? No, I also need to self-care. So I work Mondays to Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, even if people say, oh, we need an appointment, I say, no, I will see you on Monday, Tuesday. Okay, so that's very important. And be able to say, it's okay to say no without feeling guilty. And especially, as responsibilities rise, you find you have to do this, you're on this committee, on that committee, this, doing that. And yes, it's nice to contribute, but know your limits. Please know your limits and say, no, it's okay. Believe you me, the world will not end if you say no. It won't collapse. So self-care. In fact, the world will just carry on, but you haven't taken care of yourself, you're burnt out, you may even be dead, you may be ill. What have you gained? Okay, so that's something that's very important. Okay, so other aspects of self-care that we often don't think about. financial aspects too. I won't say much because I know there's been input on that, managing money wisely, reducing financial stress is part of your well-being, investing well, and just organizing yourself. And purposeful living is self-care, connecting with a faith or values or a philosophy is fundamental and important. Practices of gratitude are very, very important. And service, contributing to your community, giving to others, investing in others, whether it is helping others with fees, whether it is helping others in some way, just feeling that you are contributing. It's actually self-care too, because the rewards for that contribution are very, very important. Now, one of the things I must say about us men, sometimes is we have developed very unhealthy ways of managing stress and the pressures, and we become addicted to substances, alcohol, for example, drugs, yes, and even behavioral things like gambling. So it's very important that an important aspect of self-care is to avoid what we call numbing the pain. Often we'll drink and drink and drink and drink and drink so that we can, in quotes, forget, not knowing that we are adding another problem to our challenges. And we know that there are now about 200 diseases directly linked and associated with alcohol. And the thing about alcohol, which is ethanol, really, the price of petrol just went up today here, and so alcohol and petrol, it's the same substance. Okay, it's ethanol, and it's very damaging to your body. It really damages, destroys the liver. And creates a whole range, apart from the social challenges when you become, because it's a psychoactive substance, which means that it makes you dependent on it, and you can become addicted to the extent that you can develop what we call alcohol use disorder, where you are struggling and you're not able to limit the amount of alcohol that you consume. So please, let's be careful. Otherwise, it can become a challenge and a problem. Okay, then lastly, let me just say, let's replace destructive habits with more constructive ones. And, self-care is not selfish. It's not being selfish. It's not being selfish. Self-care is strategy. It is making sure that you are the best that you can be. You are taking care of those, not only of you, but you're also taking care of those who depend on you. Yeah? So you're also looking after your family when you look after you. Because you can't pour out from an empty cup if you're giving, giving, giving. And self-care is about allowing your cup to be refilled, okay, for you to be re-energized. So let us, gentlemen, please give attention to our well-being, to our self-care. That is very, very important. And make it a priority. Set specific self-care goals. Okay, I'll walk every 30 minutes when it comes to your physical, and make it a habit, all right? Make it happen and protect your self-care, because often when you block time for yourself and then other demands come, often that's the first thing that goes. But let us actually ensure that we keep up with self-care, even when you're feeling good, even when you're feeling great, even when things are going well. Make sure that you maintain your habits, the ones we have outlined here, to keep you in a healthy routine. All right. Yeah, so that's something I think that for us as men we need to give attention to. And I hope that I've given a general overview for us to look at, but please prioritize your self-care. All right, I think I'll end there and open up for any comments, any questions. They'll be most welcome, and I really, really want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Bandawe. A question perhaps from Yunusu Kadango, who was wanting to find out about how with between stress, when you're stressed and you're expressing yourself, how do you balance that with privacy, especially with family members and colleagues, friends, and individuals, because there's a risk of leakages that might come.
Yeah.
Expression of things. How would you balance the risk of leakages in that regard?
Okay, so by leakages, you mean like people getting to know out there what you are going through?
What he was saying was how you would balance between your expression and privacy of whatever it is that you're expressing to individuals.
Yeah. So, and that's a very important and very fair question. So, what I always say, or what I always advise, is that apart from where you are dealing with a professional, where you go and you talk, and that should be the safest space. But apart from that, ensure that when you are talking with someone, that you know the person, you trust the person. What I always advise is just share bits of you first. And then when that information doesn't come back to you, then you know that, okay, I can share a little bit more. Never just be an open book where anyone can just, where all your stuff is known. Because unfortunately, it's a very heartless, cruel world out there. So chatting with friends you've known for a long time, or chatting with colleagues who you feel safe, open up in small little bits, because, it can be additional stress. If there's that leakage, if that information is out there. So it's a fine line to walk. It's a fine line to walk. There isn't a straightforward, easy solution to that. But what's important is just make sure that the person you are talking to is somebody you really trust, and you give bits and pieces, observe for a while, and when you are happy that, okay, this one can keep secrets, and you do so. Otherwise, people are quite ruthless out there. Sure. I hope I've addressed the question.
I think you did. Another one is people with heart issues struggle with stress handling methods. They prefer to prevent the stress beforehand than recovering because most of the methods don't work on them. How would you help them?
Right. So when they say most of the methods don't work on them and on people with heart issues, I mean, so basically the idea is of course prevention. So obviously the exercising, eating well, watching one's weight, things like that. But what I would say is that it's also very, very important to ensure that the lifestyle that you live is one that, as far as possible, you're able to manage your stress. And the stress tips we looked at, I think, would help one do that. That you make time for yourself, that you know what your stress warning signs are, that you engage in a series of tools, and we haven't really talked about, for example, breathing exercises, where you may take a deep breath in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, and breathe out. for a count of 6, like 1, 2, 3, 4. As you breathe in, hold 2, 3, 4, and then you release. What that does is that it ensures that you get enough oxygen in, because when we are stressed, our breathing is often fast and shallow. And then the other thing, apart from the breathing exercises, is to just watch our imagery. Often we become stressed or anxious or fearful because of movies running through our head. We are often, if you are called to go and meet the boss, you might, oh, what does he want? Oh my gosh, am I in trouble? Am I going to be fired? And then you find that you're becoming very worked up. Okay, and that's not good for your heart, for your blood pressure. So we just watch the images that run through our head, because often the images are hostile and negative images that are not helpful and conducive to our well-being. And so what's a useful practical thing to do is to occasionally recall stories of triumph. Recall times when you were doing very, very well, and just relive that. It's almost like you are downloading that moment into your current situation. Because you'll find that that technique, that technique often does work. And so because, as it says there, that many people, you know, they say they prefer to prevent stress beforehand. That is the ideal. That is the ideal. Prevention is by far better than cure. And there is a link between stress and, heart-related issues. So these tools and these practices that we've talked about are very useful, as well as what we've really talked about this evening, about taking care of ourselves socially, of ourselves physically, of ourselves spiritually, of ourselves emotionally. Those are all very important. There are things we can do every day, bit by bit, and play a very important role in preventing all this.
Awesome, Prof. Diet, sleep, preventive health checks, emotional self-care, maintenance, stress, and thoughts that affect our feelings, I've always said, you are what you eat, and, the diet that you spoke about, you are what you think as well, the thoughts that manifest in your mind. And somebody has just commented about heart disease and how there are 200 diseases that are associated with alcohol that we spoke about. And it was one of the comments that has come up.
Yeah.
But thank you for unlocking and unpacking such a wonderful package. And my question would be, perhaps, what platform would people use should they want to get in touch with you and seek further guidance on some stuff that you have spoken about this evening?
Sure, thank you so much. So, I have a Facebook page, Professor Chiwoza Bandawe. So you can inbox me there. There's also a Harmony Mental Wellness Solutions Facebook page. You can inbox me there as well. And so, you can reach out. My email, I think my email is there. We're also on Instagram and so on. So, people are welcome to write and to ask questions. That's absolutely most welcome. My email is basically cbandawe@gmail.com or cbandawe@harmonymw.org. And you'll be able to get to me, and I'll be happy to talk and engage with you.
Great. Thank you. And also to encourage our listeners and viewers to look out on our Lion Hearts of Africa social media handles on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and the website, and you would be able to get recordings of this session, as well as contacts of our esteemed speakers, should you want to reach out to them.
Sure.
Thank you, Professor Bandawe, once again, and I really appreciate you taking your time and speaking to men about such pertinent issues that affect all of us and how we can take care of ourselves. Self-care for men, as you put it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. No, you're welcome, and thank you for inviting me, and look forward next time to meeting you in person, and let's have this conversation in person next year. Sure.
Yes, definitely. We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this concludes this evening and our session on self-care. And like I said before, I encourage you to look at our social media handles and our website, the Lionheart of Africa, and stay engaged with us as we continue to speak and engage men in the SADC region. Thank you and wish you all the best. Good night.
Good night.